I'm not hallucinating. I haven't lost time. I am awake, and this is real.
Uh-oh, Hannibal, I think someone is on your tail. As we concluded the penultimate episode of the first season, as everything began to unravel. Will, who for a time was finally able to think clearly, has caught the scent of the real copycat killer. For a while, Jack, Will and many of the others thought that the copycat's tale had already ended. But after another death this week, Will began to link all of those original murders to the ones that were still happening. And the most recent victim, sadly, was Georgia Madgen. Set up as the murderer of Dr. Sutcliffe, Georgia was still receiving treatment in hopes of her getting better. She still remembers nothing, though admitted to Will that she hoped the treatment wouldn't help her regain those memories. She doesn't want the memory of her killing her best friend on her mind, and after a side mention of that to Hannibal, I guess he agreed it was probably best for all parties involved that her memories would never come to light. Hannibal found yet another cruel and delightfully twisted way to dispatch his latest target. Leaving a plastic comb in a highly oxygenated environment was all he had to do because science would take care of the rest. But with George's death, it sparked a fire in Will's mind that the copycat killer could still be in play. Georgia told Will that she saw someone in Sutcliffe's office that night, and that was why the copycat killer killed Georgia, because he didn't want her to remember his face. Will surmised that if the copycat was still alive, well, and killing all the same, his earlier assumptions of Nick Boyle being that killer had to be drastically changed. It couldn't have been him, not with what's happening now, so for him to find out more, he had to take Abigail back to the scene of the crime and figure out what he was missing. His worst fears were imagined after discovering that Abigail was the bait for those girls and that she helped her father in all of those murders. Her conscience was beginning to get the better of her. She's already had second thoughts before when she uncovered Nick Boyle's body, but unfortunately for her this time, when confessing her actions to Will, the reaction didn't mirror that of Hannibal's. Jack had been right this entire time. He had just refused to see it. But after more hallucinations caused him to lose Abigail back at the cabin, where will he head to next, as Jack at this very moment thinks that Will is the killer? Hannibal threw him under the bus, giving evidence, motive, facts, the whole damn lot to force Jack's gaze and focus on Will. You've got to hand it to him, he has planned this meticulously this whole time if something ever went wrong. I don't think for a second Hannibal would have thrown Will to the wolves unless he absolutely had to, but Will was getting too close. He was linking all of those original murders back to the very recent, all of course done by Hannibal himself. So it was either risk being caught, something which became a very real reality this week, or force his hand to push Will into that firing line. Who knows what's going to happen next week? Is Will going to try and contact Jack to tell him everything that he knows? Or can Hannibal derail his attempts and foil his next step? What we know for certain is that this evil genius has been killing for years, so if you expect to stop him, you are going to need one hell of a plan.
Are you going to kill me?
I'm so sorry, Abigail. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you in this life.
My overall verdict for the penultimate episode of Hannibal Season 1 is a 9 out of 10. It was a huge episode this week. Nothing explosive occurred unless you count George's unfortunate fate, but every little theory that has been neatly woven together is now crucial as we head into the finale. Will knows everything apart from who the copycat killer is. He knows Abigail helped her father, that she was the bait, and that Jack from the very start had been absolutely right. He knows that Hannibal has now kept more information from him about Abigail, as Hannibal sold Will out to Jack, who will now be on the hunt for his latest protege. Hopefully he will realise the error of his judgment and the manipulation that is being used around him. In any case, it looks dead set that Hannibal is set to frame Will as Garrett Jacob Hobbs's copycat killer, which makes you step back and think about his overall endgame. Has he truly been connecting with Will and growing close to him as a friend, or was it all for show? I believe he does genuinely care for Will, whether it's in his own serial killer way or not, but perhaps all of the evidence that he's been leaving behind was done just in case Will began to catch on. I had multiple favourite scenes this week. Will finally beginning to unravel the truth right in front of the man causing it was probably my number one. But Hannibal's chilling words to Abigail to sound off the episode makes us wonder what's in store next for someone he called his surrogate daughter. Her fate seems pretty much sealed from that ending there, and if it does go like any of the other murders have, Hannibal will likely continue to plant evidence for Will and have him take the fall for Abigail's murder. Now, as we talk about Abigail, she has been a crucial element to this series thus far, but after being outed by Will as being guilty of being the bait, I imagine Hannibal could not risk Abigail being taken into custody, considering the fact that she knows Hannibal is actually the real serial killer. The show just goes to prove you do not need a ton of action every episode to keep the story interesting. Here, it was all the threads and theories coming together to create an essential part of the story. Hannibal wasn't even close to being outed as the copycat killer or the Chesapeake Ripper, as a matter of fact, but now, after Will finally opened his eyes regarding Abigail, he's on the trail and the chase of our title character. Will he be able to narrow down his search and find out who the real killer is in next week's finale? Or can Hannibal continue to be many steps ahead? If you're betting on the latter, considering his track record, it would not be a surprise at all. That'll do it from me. What did you guys think of the penultimate episode from Hannibal's first season? And what was your favourite moment from this week's episode? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Please leave a like, comment and subscribe if you enjoyed the review. And I'll see you on the next one.
When the pressures of my personal and professional relationships with Will grow too great, I assure you, I'll find a way to relieve them.